and people hold back, or they stay in the thing that maybe feels safe. And we do that with relationships too. So obviously, two of the most taboo topics there are. I don't have to talk about that one. And then I think that a lot of us have core wounds around both of these things that sometimes we spend our whole lives trying to heal, that come from childhood. I don't have to probably talk to all of you about sexual shame. I'm sure that you've talked about that. I'm sure you've covered that. So a lot of us have wounds there, and there's actually some pretty deep wounds about money too. And sometimes we find those in those belief systems, and that's why I wanted to start with that. Like, where's the thing? What's the thing I learned that I feel like I can't shift or can't overcome, or it's not going to happen for me, but it's going to happen for everybody else? So a lot of those wounds are rooted there. And then both of them are about relationship, right? Obviously, sex is about relationship to ourselves, to our partners. I think it's also, we get our ecosexual on, it's our relationship to nature, to our environment, it's our relationship to a lot of things. And money comes through people. It doesn't come from them, it comes through them. And that's an important distinction when we're really looking at how do I want to arrange my career, or where do I need to put my energy. So relationships are very important. And of course, that has a lot to do with, many of the things that Feminista talked about earlier, and that I know you all are probably talking about in your classes in terms of power and privilege and all of that as well. And then I think that there are ways that we transform ourselves. So that's my quick 10. I have a whole audio class where I talk more about those. If people want that, we can send that to you too. So I don't bring handouts anymore. I'm going to give you an assignment at the end of our class that I will also send you. So if you put your name there, that's how you'll get all of that. So what else have people said about sex educators in terms of money? I think there's more. There's more here. Yeah.
We're not going to actually live it well, and I feel like it's more of a general sense that if you're kind of earning what your worth, so to speak, you're earning well, I think then it's not possible
that you're not being really truly inclusive. Okay.
Kind of that those intersections.
Okay. So can't be inclusive and make money. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
I've actually had mixed reviews with that. For the therapist, I've gotten pretty good feedback from people when that's something that I've been looking into, is coming a sex therapist. But if I say sex educator, completely different. It's like, oh, you're not going to make any money. Like,
well, who has more perceived social status, an educator or a therapist?
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's a big piece of that. There's a ceiling for therapists too in the current model that we're working in. There is a financial ceiling. There's always a financial ceiling when we're exchanging hours for dollars. Always. So I had to get out of that model. I had to start valuing my work in a bigger way, in the value that it's bringing to people, in the transformation that it's bringing to people, in what is the whole package, what is the experience. And I had to get out of, you're going to pay me dollars for hours, because all of us have finite hours. Try as we might, we cannot squeeze 25 hours out of a day, right? So as I went into business and really started to educate myself in terms of business, what I realized is the only way I get more hours is if I have more people on my team. And I did it alone. I was like a solopreneur for a while. I've had 2 different businesses. I started my first business on 9/11. I actually know the day because I was going for my first interview for my first consulting client, which turned out to be a very big client of mine. That's where I met Don Dyson way back in the, and we worked on several projects with that client. So I had a consultant training and curriculum business for quite a few years. I didn't fit in the nonprofit world. They didn't like when I talked about the things that I think are important to talk about. There's a particular kind of politicization that you have to be prepared for to work in that environment. And I think it's really right for some people. It was not really right for me. So I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying for me, it wasn't right. So I did the Planned Parenthood gig. I did the GMHC gig, doing the HIV prevention, doing the teen work and pregnancy prevention programs. And so I got to actually learn some really important things there, but I knew that still wasn't it. And so I was that solopreneur for a long time, and then it really was, I was not able to really grow my income until I brought someone else on. Because when it is just you, it is the, what was it? Makes you a slave. You have to be drained to make it, right? I mean, there is a certain amount of that. And it does take a lot to actually grow a business and make a business viable and successful. And not everyone is cut out for that. And so you've got to really figure out, like, where am I really going to put my resources? Where am I prepared to put my energy? That will challenge every part of you if you want to build a business and you want to hold that. And for me, the rewards have been incredible. So I have a team of 2 amazing women who are queer, and it's not a requirement. That's how it happens. And we have a lot of fun together. They're super smart, and we're able to create a lot of things, and we're able to create the life that we want to create. And then it has its drawbacks too, right? So talk to people as you're figuring out, like, what direction do I want to go in, and really figure out, like, is this the thing that's going to work for me? Is this the environment that I want to work in? Yeah, other things. I think I saw a couple other hands. Other things on this question. Specifically, in terms of, like, what's the perception? Yeah. Good. Bring it. Let's talk about that. Yes, yeah, exactly. Everyone needs what we do. Yeah. There is not a person I have met yet that does not need help with their sexuality at some point in their life. It doesn't mean they're all going to seek it out. They're not. Whose job is it to teach them that it's valuable to seek it out? It's our job, right? So we have to really create that value. And I think the culture doesn't necessarily value sexuality. I think it's changing. I think we're in this place of where it's shifting. Yeah, and where it's like, oh, that's cool. Oh, I want to know more about that, right? Yeah, yes. I want to talk more about that. There's a couple other hands that shot up over here. Yeah.
And like bounce off of that, just that this is an awesome time for a lot of stuff that's happening.
Yep.
It's a good time.
Yes. Yes. When I decided I wanted to get my master's degree in human sexuality, that I wanted to do what my professors at UC Santa Barbara, John and Janice Baldwin, did, who inspired me to the nines and completely changed my life in Soch 152 as an undergrad. I was like, there was no internet. I had to go to a library. Remember those? Do we still use those? I don't know. I don't know what it's like to be a student anymore. But so I had to go to a library and, like, do a lot of research to figure out, like, where can I even do that? No one knew anything. I finally found this little known organization you might have heard about called SIECUS. And I called up SIECUS. I was like, listen, I've been trying to find the info. Where can I go to do this? For me, I knew I wanted those letters behind my name. I mean, this was 1992, 1993. I knew that that was important to me, that I wanted to be taken seriously. And I think it's very different now. I think, people come to the field from very different perspectives. There's a lot of people doing DIY and who build it up in another way. Reed is a really great example of that. I know a lot of you were in his last session. We come to it from different places. As long as we're getting training and we're educating ourselves, we can do that in different ways. For me at the time, that was what I needed. So options, choices, yes, it is an awesome time. It is very, very different. So someone else had a hand over here. All right. Yes.
Well, I was kind of off of what you said. A lot of people say, oh yeah, you make so much money doing that, but we have to farm our own way into doing that. And that is, at least for me, my perception is that that is so tough because I see a lot of people in my field who are that stability isn't necessarily there, which is kind of difficult. You jump from job to job, and it's constantly changing. And for some people, that works really well. For me, I am kind of in the middle. I like being in front of that diversity, but I also like having some level of stability to do, my load and things like that. So it's wonderful that we're blazing the trail, but it's also scary as hell to try to make those connections by ourselves, or also rely on others. But there's only so much relying you can do when a lot of these other people are also trying to figure it out as well.
Yeah. It's interesting no one said anything about security up here. Security almost always comes up. So I think that it's just an interesting question. And I think if one of your deepest core values is security, entrepreneurship is not the path for you. It's just really not. And you have to be honest with yourself about that. For me, I'm a risk taker. I can kind of fly by the seat of my pants. I can figure things out. I moved a lot growing up in a military family. I'm used to kind of like, okay, we're doing this now. Okay, so for me, that's not the chorus thing. Sometimes to my detriment, you know. So we have to, each of us, really ask ourselves those questions to figure out what's going to be the best place for me. Yeah, that's real. That security is important to a lot of people. Okay, let's talk about why we don't make enough money. So I did, a couple of years ago at a sexuality conference, I brought together a group of people who have been blazing a trail, and brought them together to have a conversation about money as sexuality professionals. And so some of what I'm going to talk about here is some of what we kind of came to and had a pretty rich conversation about in that conversation. At some point, I'm going to probably publish something about that, because I think we need to be having more of these conversations. And that sparked a lot, that one conversation actually sparked a lot of things. So just breaking the seal felt really important. One of the things that is really evident, and was definitely evident in that conversation, is that because our field really came from a place of activism, right? Activists, our field really as we know it now, today, activists were the ones who came out of, we need more information about HIV. We need more information about pregnancy, about bodies. We need more information about women's health and how women's health and sexuality looks different from men. That is, very much a foundation of this field. And so because of that, there's a, in terms of my money story, I was getting it from like all angles, and we can all probably look at our lives and see the many angles where we're getting some of these messages. So I've always identified as an activist, done a lot of work in different ways throughout my life. And in activist communities, there can definitely be a feeling of like, well, you're not down with the cause if you're making money. Or something about you becomes questionable if you decide that that's important. And it's like, no, I can be an activist and do that. Because actually the more money I start to make, then the more I can support the things that I want to support, and I do. Then I had a lot of spiritual community. I've been a part of a lot of interesting spiritual communities in my life. I have sort of an unusual history with that. But what was really consistent in all the very different communities was that somehow, if we're spiritual people, we have to transcend money. We have to, somehow, if we're too focused on that, or we need to make money, there's something that is then questionable about our spiritual birth. So I was getting it there. I was getting it from my mentors in the sexuality field, all of which were women, which I think is important. I think that that's important, right? Because there's huge gender implications here as well. So what are some other places where you would say you've been really influenced in terms of money in your lives, communities or culture, things like that? For sure, right? I mean, whatever our family of origin, whatever the beliefs are there, right? Absolutely, yeah. Other ones, other examples. Okay, yep.
So, there can be an elitism or a snobbery in academia around teaching or doing scholarly work around sexuality as opposed to doing private content.
Yep. Somehow it's better if you're in the academy.
Yeah, still academic. So.
Yeah, right? But you've got the prestige, you've got the social currency, right? Yeah. Yep. I've been there too, yep. So I think that's a big piece. So this goes to something we said a moment ago, right? So I still think people can't always verbalize it. But I think why a lot of times people are confused about like what I do when I talk to them, maybe this has happened to some of you. I think part of that confusion is they equate it to sex work. That's the only, so it's like the only things people understand, and there's nothing wrong with sex work. That's not the point of this. It's just that that's people's paradigm of, but wait, I would spend money to help me with my sex life. The only ways you do that is either sex work or therapy, sex therapy, right? And so anything outside of that feels really foreign. And so the idea that you would invest in your sexuality, that's a new idea, I think, for most people. So we talked about that a minute ago. And so I think, again, I think it's our job, and I want to have that conversation in a minute, about how can we actually start to help people to value it more. What are some of the ways that we could do that with the platforms that we have?
I think this is really easy one that I hope everybody knows about. So our program has a monthly column in the local newspaper that the University Relations Office will help people do. And so anybody can do one of those, and at least it gets it out there that this is a real thing that graduate students study, and there's lots of topics.
Yeah.
It's public education.
Yeah. I think our blogging, our podcasts, our whatever our platforms are, our articles, our books, our whatever, our film, whatever projects you're working on, social media is an ally in terms of that. Talking about the work that we do, the way that we represent the work is important. And we get to teach people how to value it by the value we place on it. But if we're still in this place of it's wrong to put a price on sex information, then we're not in a place of valuing it and thinking that it's worth doing that. It's worth paying for. It's worth someone investing in. So how are we going to get them on board if we're carrying that one? And I hear that one all the time, and I used to think that one too. Show me the doctor who's like, you know what, you don't need to pay me because you know what, your heart is so important, and I should just take care of your heart because it's important. That would seem crazy, right? So why shouldn't we hold ourselves to the same standard? Actually, no, I've created something that's really valuable. You know, yes, you can go get information, sure. You know, and I do tons of stuff that people can always be a part of my tribe and pay nothing. You know, there's lots of things that I do where people can access, right? So we can give lots of access, and we can also put a value on the work that we're here to do. And if we don't, they're not going to. So we have to set that standard. So someone talked about family of origin, right? And so in thinking about like what were the values around money in my family? A lot of us come from a middle or working class background, and there's a lot of values that go along with that. One of those values is you got to work to ever get paid, right? That's a huge value. I mean, I learned that growing up. A lot of us probably did. So looking at what are some of the behaviors and expectations around money. Expectations in terms of like, do I deserve it? Am I going to have it? What do I need to do in order to get it? And if we don't have examples in our family of people who have done it in a different way, then how would we know that there's another way to do it? We wouldn't. I didn't know that. And then all of my mentors were saying, yep, you're not going to make any money, but you're going to do what you love.
I would say that I was raised with like this sense of most people don't like their jobs, so you shouldn't expect to get paid to do something you love.
Yeah.
It's almost selfish for you to expect that. There's like this sense of morality attached to working really hard as possible to make as much money as possible.
Yep. Yeah. Could everyone hear that? Yeah. This idea that she talked about, this idea that it's almost selfish to do something that you shouldn't like. You don't need to like what you do to make money. That it's almost selfish if you go for the thing that you actually would enjoy. Yeah. So lots of things if we start to tease it apart that we learned. And we all come by it honestly, but we have to start to tease that apart and really ask ourselves, well, is that true? And is that the value I want to take with me in order to create something different? We are at a time where we're learning to create things in a very different way. And so many more things are possible in the way that we can do our work and make our money. I get to work wherever I am. I just need a computer and a telephone. And that freedom, that's one of my number one values, right? It's not the security, it's that. And so I've designed my life now to be able to do that. So we can do that. It is possible, but we just don't have a lot of role models. Where do we learn that? Where do we see it? And then there's a lot of these false beliefs around, like, there's not going to be enough. There's not enough to go around. There's not going to be enough clients. There's not enough people who will pay for this. I don't believe that. Because remember, everybody needs what we do. Again, they're not all going to go for it. And not everyone is going to come work with me, but some of the people that I'm not right for, you might be right for, or you might be right for, right? Not everyone is the right teacher or the right guide or the right coach or the right therapist. And so I think we also have to start to look at that competition piece that we get into the like they got new clients or they got the new, their class went really well, or, whatever the thing is, and get out of that space of competition, because underneath that place of that when we're competing with each other is there's not enough for me. If you have more, it's taking something away from me. That is never going to serve us, and that is never going to get us the things that we really want. Yeah, I mean, I think we just often don't value it ourselves. Anyone here guilty of that? Money's not important. I don't need money. You don't have to pay me. It's cool, right? Yeah. So it starts with that piece. How can I start to value money in a different way? Money isn't the bad guy or the bad whatever, right? I mean, some of this stuff about money over here, right? Money will hinder my passion. Money will make me a slave. What was the other one? Yeah. So, I mean, even the way people talk about money, as if money did something bad. Money didn't do anything to you. Money is an energy. It's an energy in a physical form that we offer and that we can receive. It's a tool to create the lives that we want to create. We don't all need to have the same amount of money either, right? It depends how we want to live our lives and what's important to us. And so sometimes that's what's going to give us the freedom that we want, is really determining, well, what is it that I need? What is the bottom line? And then how do I create that? So there's a big piece here, which is why this conference is so awesome. there was nothing like this when I was in school. This would have helped me so much to have this opportunity. We weren't, you know, sexuality programs are not designed to teach you how to go into business and how to deal with the marketplace. And it's actually, we're not different than other fields in that. Lawyers, when they're in law school, they don't learn how to run a law firm. Doctors, when they're in med school, they don't learn how to run a practice. That's a whole different skill set. It's a very, very different skill set. So if you think you want to do entrepreneurial work, then you've got to learn those skills. You've got to understand how the marketplace works. And you've got to understand business. I said this, we have very few role models. Where do we learn it? I've created something that I haven't seen someone else create. I pulled pieces from different things. Well, I like that, or I'd like to create that, but I haven't seen someone do it in this field in the way that I've done it. And I'm not saying that to be like, I'm great. It's just the reality of like, there just wasn't a role model. And so it's like, okay, it was a lot of trial and error. It took me a long time to figure it out. So yeah. All right, let's talk about what we need to do about it. Talking about this one, be that voice. Be that voice. Every chance you get, be that voice. No, sexuality actually is really valuable. Oh, you've never heard of sex coaching? Oh, you've never heard of, you know, sex education for adults? Oh, let me tell you about that, right? Why is it important? People need the help. I have very personal conversations with people on a regular basis. They tell me all kinds of things. We could call those sales conversations. We could call them conversations with prospects who might decide to work with me. They're conversations that are in service to that person. They don't have to work with me at all. But I learn a lot about them in those conversations because I really listen and I really ask them what's going on and what it is they're really wanting. And a lot of people don't know what they want. They're trying to figure that out. So then that's what they want. But I can help them see the value in those conversations of doing that work. Know your worth, claim your worth, raise your prices, and stop backing down. There's times when I back down. There's times I came here where there's not stipends really for speakers because it was important to me to want to be here and be in this conversation, right? But I also think the money's there, right? The money's there if we teach the university to value it. This is the 8th conference and they're not supporting y'all to bring in speakers? 8 years? That's crazy. This is a super successful conference as far as I can see. This is amazing. And there's nothing else like it, right? So we've got to teach them to value it. What's the value? Why should they invest? So whether it's a university, whether it's a funder for your nonprofit, whether it's individuals, right? This goes across the board, no matter how you're going to do your work. We are all ambassadors. We have to see ourselves as those ambassadors. Right? Talk more about money. Please, the conversation cannot end here. I'm sure it won't because of where you are in terms of, you know, where a lot of you are in your careers, right? You're trying to figure this out. We have to talk more about it. We have to be more transparent. That's one thing that came out of the conversation that I had with a bunch of colleagues a couple of years ago, is there's been a lot more transparency and a lot more discussion about money, like real talk about money. How are people making money? How much are people charging? You know, who's not paying you but paying other people and pitting you against each other? Like we're cutting that stuff out. So Sex Educators Union has been a really, really, I don't know if people know about the Sex Educators Union number 69 Facebook group has been a really, really great resource for that. Look it up if you don't know about it. Develop business and entrepreneurial skills, I said that. And then I think really learning about sales. This has been one of the hardest parts of my journey as an entrepreneur. Because what did we hear about sales? That term, like what are the stereotypes about sales? What do we? It's sleazy and slimy.
They're not genuine.
It's not genuine. Someone's trying to screw you over. A lot of what? It's gimmicks. Yeah. I think that's kind of like the going story about sales. But if you want to be in business, you have to make sales. So you got to get over that one. And one of my mentors, so I had to leave the sexuality field to get the mentors that could help me with this. So I was like, nobody in my field knows how to do this. I've got to figure this out somewhere. So I started working with people who really understood money and had figured out money. And started doing a lot of teaching. I do a lot of weekends on sex and money and power with women because we're not having that conversation. So I've done like 6 of them now. People want to have that conversation. We need to have that conversation. But one of the things that my mentor David Nagel taught me is that sales is service. That if you have something that would help somebody else, and you're like holding it back, and you're like, oh yeah, well, that's nice. Okay, all that stuff's going on. Okay, that's cool. And you have the thing that actually would help them potentially break through it, or figure it out, or give them the space to do that, and you don't offer it, you're not in service to them. They don't have to accept it, right? But sales is being in service if we do it in a good way, right? Where it's not about the gimmicks, it's not about the sleaziness. It's about, is this a match? Is the thing that you're needing and wanting a match with the thing that I know I can provide? There's a reason that you're having that conversation with that person. There's a reason they came into your orbit. That's its own workshop. And then investing in our own development, you know. If we want people to come and invest with us or take a risk on us, again, whether it's hiring us or working with us in a program or coming to a class or buying a book or, you know, whatever, we've got to be willing to do that for ourselves. And so if we're not investing in ourselves on that personal development piece, then we can't very well think that other people are going to come and do it. Okay, so let me take questions before I get into that. Questions and thoughts? Additions? There's more. Yes?
I do have a question. Speaking to being at the beginning of this experience of trying to market myself and all that good stuff and making money, how do you speak a little about how do you choose between when you do something for experience, when you do something?
Yeah. I think when you're at the beginning, you do some things for experience, right? I mean, you've got to get some experience under your belt or people aren't going to trust you, right? I mean, the first time I offered my women's program, I offered it at like a ridiculous price for people because I just needed to get it on its feet. And, you know, I offered it to a lot of my dear friends who I knew were interested in doing the work, not just randomly. Like I offered it to people that I knew would value it and wanted to do it. So I could get it on its feet, and then I could hone it, and I could make it better. And then I people's testimonials of like, here's what that experience was, right? And so yeah, I think we do have to do that.
Where do you draw that line where you can from like, okay, I'm done, you know, doing this just to get experience on my resume, and how do I?
Yeah, I wish I had an easy answer for you. I don't think there's like the line's right there. Right. So, you know, I think we all have to figure that out. And there's still times when, you know, I'll do something pro bono or for very little like this, right? Because it's valuable to me in a different way and I want to be there. Or it's an organization I believe in and I want to give something to. But I think we also have to understand, I think part of it is also understanding the structures that we're working in and how they work. And when it really is like we really don't have any money to bring you, but we still want to have you. And when we're just not asking the right people or we need some help organizing an approach. And so again, that's where we bring in the value conversation. Okay, sometimes with students, for instance, my conversation, if students want to bring me somewhere, but they're not sure about the money is, well, let me help you figure out the approach for how you can sell it to the people you need to sell it to, right? Who are signing the checks, and so then maybe that's the conversation. So sometimes we can help them, and then that empowers them because they've figured out how to work their system better, or how to figure out like, oh, these are the spaces, these are the places we can get money to support our endeavors. So yeah, there's not a clean answer to that one, but it's one that you'll keep asking yourself. So yeah.
For me, my master's was in marriage and family therapy, which is, in my opinion, a little bit more lucrative than the sex therapy aspect. Especially in Atlanta, you can easily make 6 figures if you work your numbers right. And so the way that I saw it was me marketing myself at the MFT, who just happens to know a lot about sex. And do you think that would be beneficial? Is that more like you're sacrificing, sex therapy just for financial reasons?
I think you do what you got to do. I mean, you figure out what your brand is and how you want to market to reach the people that you want to reach. I don't think there's a right or a wrong. I don't think it's like, oh, she sold, I'm sorry, I don't know your pronoun. This person sold out to go over, and do.
That's what I was thinking, the word sell out.
Yeah.
Like, since it's such a small field, oh, you got a degree, you're not going to use it.
But you are using it. You are using it. You're just using it through another door. I think there's a lot of doors that actually haven't really been opened. And I think this goes back to like, this is a really interesting time. There's more doors to be opened in terms of figuring out how do we do this work? How do we make it viable? I've opened a few doors. I know Reed's opened some doors. I know a lot of my colleagues have opened doors. So I think we need to be looking for those doors. And then we need to be talking about that and saying, hey, there's this big door over here and not enough people are walking through it. Let's like get the, if that's the way to bring them in, that's fine. Because it's easier for someone to say, well, we're going to a marriage and family therapist than we're seeing a sex therapist, right? And so you're helping people who maybe in their mind, even if it's the same work that they would do, would never go to a sex therapist by the way that you're branding yourself. So I think that's great. Do what you got to do and keep doing it. And if it's working, build it.
I feel better.
Good, good. No shame about that.
What I noticed after getting more actual meeting is that really the salespeople are actually just really good educators. And so I really like your trope in the video. She always said, in this video, so she tells you what she's going to teach you, she teaches it to you, which is great. And so that for me helps me move past some of those things.
We are all salespeople. Let's get real clear. Babies are salespeople. They're good at it, right? Babies know how to get what they want. They're salespeople, right? We learn it from the get. We just don't call it that. Why, as soon as there's money involved, is it slimy and sleazy and weird? Because we have all this baggage about what it means to have money, to need money, to want more money, to whatever the thing is about the money. We got to get over the money thing, or we're going to keep that paradigm of sex educators being broke in place. The only people who can do it are us. No one else is going to do it for us. So yeah, we're all salespeople. I want you to just like tell yourself that I'm a salesperson. Well, what am I selling today? Oh, okay, I'm selling the cab driver and taking me where I want to go. I'm selling, what are we selling? What are we selling? I'm selling my family on this beautiful meal that I've made. What are we selling? We're selling all kinds of things. Other comments, questions? Go ahead, Betsy.
I don't want to take too much time, but I think one of the other barriers for some people who are not entrepreneurial work is that it seems like, I hate to say it, but it's almost like you have to be somewhat of a narcissist. Like you have to be somebody who's willing to try to put your name up there as being important. And I have a lot of people talk to me about that. Like they'd rather go work for an agency where they can be anonymous than make it look like they think they're really good at this. And it's, I think for women, it's fair competition with them. I mean, there's all kinds of people.
Yeah.
Do you hear that?
You have to own your worth, right? I mean, you have to be willing to be visible. I don't think that that's narcissism. I think, if we look at definitions of narcissism, that's not what that is, right? But it is a really, you know, having a strong sense of self and being willing to put yourself in the spotlight. You know, I published my first book when I was 29 years old. I was making Volvolution. I was in a video that Betty was doing. I was doing another video project. I was doing all these things in the public eye, and I freaked out. I have been there. I freaked out. I got into a relationship. We made a nice home together. And I just started doing my little work over here, and I did my little consulting things because I wasn't ready for that. You know, and I've had moments where I'm like, I wonder what would have happened if I would have ridden that trajectory, because I was on a trajectory, you know, but it's fine. I had a lot of things to learn, and I needed to be loved in that relationship the way I got to be loved. And that was really important to spend my 30s doing that. And then when that ended, I was like, okay, I'm ready. I'm doing this. I need to figure this money thing out. So, yeah, I think again, that's the thing we all have to look at, you know, is how much in the public eye do I want to be? And if you're not someone that wants to be like the one in the public eye, there's a lot of businesses you could also support. If you are still interested in entrepreneurship, there's lots of ways to work in sexuality in businesses where that's the thing that's happening. There's many roles to be played. That's not the only role, that's just the one we see.
Can you give examples of that?
Yeah, so on my team, I have a online business manager. If you get online business management training, man, you'll be so valuable. They make some bank. I have an online business manager. So she manages all of my marketing and promotion, all of my systems. She manages my team. She manages our flow and our calendar. Like she oversees that. It is a huge role. I don't know where I would be without Leonore Chia, who does that with me. She's really my partner in my business. And then I don't like to call her an assistant. She does so many things in my business. She makes my videos, Elise. She does my scheduling. I call her my schedule top. She tells me where to be. She manages all of that. She's the person that takes in all the email. I mean, our email, as we've grown, it's a huge volume of email to go through every day. I can't answer those emails. So she does that. She sends me the things that I need. She answers a lot of them. She knows how to do that. They're both incredibly articulate. They both write well. They do a lot of writing in my business. If you're a writer and you have writing skills, I mean, there's so many skills that entrepreneurial businesses or business ventures need. So if you feel like, well, I don't really want to do the nonprofit, or I'm not really wanting to do the academia thing, I would like to do business, but I'm not that person out front, there's a place for you. And believe me, people who are like harried in business and they're trying to figure it out, and they're without a doubt, that was the #1 thing that skyrocketed my business, was when I made my first hire. And it was just for 5 or 10 hours a week when I first hired Leonore. And she's been with me for 4 years now. I never had a clue it would turn into this. So there's people who need you. Sometimes they don't know they need you. She promoted herself, actually, after I'd already hired someone else and we thought she was leaving. And then she decided she wanted to do the OBM training. She's like, I'm going to do the OBM training and be your OBM. I was like, I don't even know what that is, but I'm sure I need it. And we expanded before I thought I was ready to. So there's places for you. So yeah, that's a great point. What's that?
What was OBM?
Online business manager.
It's like what Carla Ross has done for Betty Dodson. She's
Yeah.
got Betty out there doing workshops.
Yeah.
She runs the whole website. She handles all the communication.
Yeah.
She does the videos.
Yeah.
So I think it's helpful to look at websites.
Yeah. See how people are doing it. Yeah, and they're like a duo, and they do the, she is in the spotlight with Betty. So that's an option sometimes too. Oh my gosh. So much more to say. So what is your financial need? So I'm going to send you this handout. Make sure you're on that list. You have to figure out what the financial need is. You've got to do the math. You can't run away from the numbers. This is so, so, so important. So I have a handout on that. I will send you. I have a lot more resources in terms of sex and money if people want to go deeper, if this conversation has been really helpful to you. I've learned some things. I haven't figured it all out. but it's something that I really care about, and I've become really passionate about teaching people, particularly women, because we don't get it. We don't learn that. We don't value ourselves in the same way. So, so I have a Going All the Way in Sex and Money program. I will give to you all at way less than I normally give it for. If anyone wants to do that, I will send you all of the information about that, and you can also talk to me about that. Because I know it was until I really started investing in this and taking this seriously and saying, okay, I really want to figure this out, I wasn't able to do it. I mean, we can only see what we've learned to a certain degree, right? Where, I mean, this is, I am the center, 360 degrees, right? It's what's in our purview. It's what we've learned. We all come by it honestly. We have to learn a different approach. So if any of you want to do that with me, let me know. And then I'm doing a book signing with my new book tonight. I'm very proud of it. So it just came out a couple weeks ago. It's Woman on Fire, 9 Elements to Wake Up Your Erotic Energy, Personal Power, and Sexual Intelligence. It would be good for people of all genders. I decided to call it Woman on Fire because that's what I've been talking to. I've been working with a lot of people, and this is really the culmination of 20 years of work, and especially the work I've done in the last 5 years with women. I love it. I'm proud of it. Their stories are amazing. So I will be doing that later. And we have some raffles. You gonna help me?
Yeah.
All right. All right. I have a few things, and I have different sizes. So, okay. My first book, Lesbian Sex Secrets for Men, just came out in second edition, 15 years later. Not bad, because it sold really well. It sells itself. And ebook, so I have a copy of the new one. And then I've got Sapiosexual. Sapiosexual. This is, it's a particular cut. Some gendered people may not like this cut, but that's, and this is like a little more boyish cut. This is my sexual evolution now. So I've got them in different sizes, so we're gonna give a couple of these away. All right.
Did everyone receive it?
Everybody get one? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Questions while he does that, or any last comments? All right, turn to someone next to you. What is one thing you're going to do different around money or around your approach to your career as a result of today's workshop? Turn to somebody. What is one thing you're going to do different, or one thing you're going to implement, one thing you're going to look into, one action step? Got them all? 20 more seconds. All right, let's hear a couple action steps. What are your action steps? Give me a few. Something you're going to do. What's that? Charge more. Yes. Okay. What's that? How are you going to do that? All right. You're going to make a list of ways you can do that. All right. What else?
Ask for compensation for the extra 20 hours of work I put in every week and don't get paid for it.
All right. It starts with those actions. And each little one you make shifts something in you. Because then you're like, oh, that's possible. Oh, okay. And then you have that much more confidence to like do the next thing and the next thing. The big leap, like I never in a million years thought I would be doing some of the things I'm doing now. You can't know, right? I mean, you can make the big leap, and I think big leaps are great. But sometimes we need like, okay, let me try, right? 20 hours a week is a lot of your time. Yeah, you better get paid for that. All right, ready? All right, 259573. Yes. You want the book or t-shirt?
T-shirt.
All right, come on up. We'll get you your size. Let's do a few of these. 259589.
Yay!
Yay! You said you wanted the red t-shirt. I know what you want. Okay. 259572. Yeah. Let's do, how many is that? 3? We're gonna do 2 more. 259563. Yes. And 259575. Come on up. All right, I'm going to take care of them with their gifts. I hope to talk to you later on the break or at the book signing. Thank you for being here. You want the book? Yes, you get the book. All right, I only have one. So. All right, which shirt? I have different sizes.
I would like a red shirt.
What size?
All you can do is how they call it, you know,
Which ones do you all want?
I want the red one. How many are?
Huh? All right, I've got an adult medium. I've got an adult small. So you want the small?
I'll take the adult medium.
This is adult extra large.